But first, we want to catch everyone up on the latest news that if you're a big Oklahoma fan, you probably are aware of, but let's dig a little deeper. So Gentry Williams has been a player that we've talked about numerous occasions, and certainly you have done some work on Last Word on Colored Football as you cover Oklahoma football, even beyond what we've talked about here. But top-rated player in the state of Oklahoma, 9th rated cornerback, number 65 rated player according to the 247 Sports Composite. So that is extremely high status for him at 6 feet 170. But Gentry Williams has made his decision.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. So, as you mentioned, we've talked a lot about this big in-state kid for Oklahoma to get. I think one of the things with him is he is very much an advocate of the state of Oklahoma. So I think he very much wanted to come to Oklahoma. However, I think through the recruiting period, he had a couple of really good. I think there was a couple of really good opportunities for him outside of Oklahoma. I think USC was one that really kind of dazzled him. I think Florida was another one that really kind of dazzled him. I think luckily for Oklahoma, he made his official, well, it was an unofficial visit because only the home team is allowed to bring recruits to the Oklahoma-Texas game. But he went there for an unofficial visit, and it was, as outstanding for him. He rated it 10 out of 10. Overall. So I think that, among some other things, has kind of moved the needle for him to Oklahoma. So as you mentioned, he made his verbal commitment to Oklahoma on Monday. One of the number one player in the state of Oklahoma, very much a position of need for the Sooners, and I'm sure we'll get into that on some of the struggles that Oklahoma's had in the secondary. But yeah, I think it's a good sign. I think Oklahoma has started. It's a long discussion that we've had just about the state of Oklahoma recruiting, just in terms of what some of the misses that they've had in the past. But they've done really well this year. I think from a recruiting perspective, they got about three in-state recruits, and then there's one more, Chris McClellan, that they're kind of working on as well, a defensive lineman out of Owasso. So I think he's it's a group of need, I think, I think specifically from a defensive lineman perspective as well. But no, I think this is good. Gets them to, I think, around number 8 overall in the 2022 rankings. Certainly that will ebb and flow a bit, but I think this is big, and I think there's a little bit of a Caleb Williams effect. We talked a little bit offline about this, Mark, but I think one of the things that he has traditionally, even last year, but certainly now that he's more kind of from a starting perspective, gets a little bit more notoriety that way. But one thing he's been very vocal on social media about getting some of these kids and really kind of recruiting, helping their recruiting on behalf of the coaches. So I think that's kind of a win-win on both sides.
McClellan is also out of the state of Oklahoma, as Jason outlines right there. He is the 3rd rated player in the state, 20th rated defensive lineman in the country. This is according to the 247 Sports Composite, number 103 nationally. So again, depending on your engagement with recruiting, these numbers may not mean a lot, or you may have a certain judgment, but a top 100 player in the country is extremely high. 6'3", 295. And the scouting report from 247 Sports likens him to Davon Hamilton, who was an interior player for Ohio State, Jacksonville Jaguars currently. So they're making that comparison, which is always a gauge just to give people an idea of what type of player that particular prospect could turn out to be, or has that type of size and characteristics to their game.
Yeah, no, that's fair, Mark. And I think the two biggest areas, I think, of intrigue, I think, for Oklahoma fans, and the two biggest positions of need probably is defensive line and wide receiver. As you mentioned there about Chris McClellan, another kid, Hayro Canoe, who came in for an official visit, was really, really good, 6'5", 293. I think he's got a couple of crystal balls to Oklahoma right now, so it's looking positive for him. Azeray Thomas is another kid. He's classified as an athlete, maybe more so on the wide receiver side of it. So Oklahoma, as we've talked, again, they've had 3 wide receiver commits that have decommitted and gone elsewhere. Just recently, Luther Burton, who was one of the the best wide receiver commits in the country, decommitted from Oklahoma probably about a month or so ago and has committed to Missouri verbally. So there's some thoughts that was really kind of more NIL related, just in terms of him kind of getting the idea that his earning potential was a little bit better being kind of local to Missouri, from a Missouri kid. So I think those are the areas of I think most intrigue and the areas of need, because you got to think that Oklahoma's probably gonna have three guys that are very pivotal to the success this year. That's probably going to leave the program to go to the NFL. Perrion Winfrey, Azeray Thomas, and Nick Benito, all three most likely will be gone after this year. So that's going to be a big area of need, just to supplement the talent that's already on campus.